I've been following Mahmoud's work for years. I've seen it in Doha and Venice and London and a variety of different places. And his work encompasses a variety of different mediums, from installation to film to painting, which we have in front of us today. And speaking, this talk is going to address a lot of the themes that Mahmoud has been exploring throughout his time as an artist, and an artist in many ways in exile as well, from his homeland. Speaking truth to power is nothing that Mahmoud Obaidi has ever shied away from, and that's something that's Maisa points out, Maisa Kafi Hussein in the catalog, in the essay, and behind you, she points out very poignantly. And I think as an artist, there's a real truth in terms of using one's work to explore some difficult subject matters that often us as journalists dig into. But I often see the artist's work as a document in itself, a way to capture a moment in time, but also to go back in time and to explore crucial elements of history that we are all still struggling with. I mean, if you think about it, we're the result of the last few centuries, of thousands of years, and that's what these works on display are exploring. Through Obaidi's reflections on his own life and the violence and loss faced by him in Iraq, this has prompted him to try and look beyond it, to transcend in many ways through his art and through its inherent message. And this has led at times to extremely violent, emotionally and unsettling works that through their edgy aesthetic cause an emotional reaction within us, within the viewer, and cause us to feel, stop, and reflect not just on the present catastrophe that we are facing within the world, particularly in certain parts of the world, but on the history, again, that has led to this destruction and to this demise. I know we're in Dubai right now, and it's a very happy time of year, and there's incredible amounts of energy, and the whole city's alive. It's hard to even get an Uber or a taxi or drive without getting stuck in traffic. So it's a really joyful time of year, but at the same time, there are a variety of different moments that a lot of these artists that are being shown at Art Dubai are capturing through their work, and I think that's so important to touch upon on that message. One of the quotes that I love that Mahmoud has written is, "What you see here is the beginning of a lifelong investigation of the far-reaching, catastrophic effects of deep-seated ideology, that of one promised land harking to another, and then getting lost in its own reflection." The idea of colonization, of genocide, and some of these turbulent events that have catapulted the world, this is what Mahmoud is showing in most of his work, and this is what is also being revealed around us here. But at the same time, there's a desire to transcend that pain and that frustration through art. And with that, I'd love maybe to first chat, Mahmoud, maybe you could tell us a little bit, what is this show about? What is it actually showing us in terms of a theme, in terms of an ideology?
It's my investigation and what happened to the Aboriginal indigenous people in the state and in the United States and Canada. So it's multi-layer research of actually it started 2017. I was walking in Venice, Italy, and I come across a toy, cowboy fighting white person. And immediately I thought of me when I was a kid, when we play. Always the bad guy is the Indian and the white guy is the good guy. So I thought, why? So the first thing in my head is the effect of the media, the effect of the corporate. So I bought the toy, I enlarged the toy, and I called it The Man and the Beast. And I didn't show who's the beast and who's the man. I just leave it up to your imagination. That was the beginning. Moving forward, after a year from that incident, I coincidentally discovered there's something called a residential school in Canada. Sorry, I don't know if the direction is fine. So a residential school, it's where they take the the Indian, let's call them Indian for now, that is what they call them. They take the Indian Canadian or Aboriginal Canadian kids, they isolate them from their family, and they bleach them, literally, and they just turn them to ideal white person. So, and the last school closed in 1996, or 1990, there is two saying here. So I thought that's unbelievably, so I started doing the research, contacting people in some places in the state. I'm getting all the document I have. So this is one of the results, like this show, and I had another show in Beirut resulting of this research.
And these works, like, as you can see there's a real oscillation between white and kind of, I would say, cream-colored and black ink. Maybe first, actually, because I just asked you, what does the title actually mean, Mosquito Effects?
Mosquito Effect is the, you know, I thought of the name in terms of the mosquito, it bites, damage, then you feel it. So there is a damage, you don't see your enemy in that moment. It's bite, then it leaves, and then you feel it. And then it related to blood sucking. So I thought it's a name of ideology, this ideology. I didn't accuse anyone. I cannot, like you cannot accuse any government or something. You accuse the system. So I call it mosquito effect. The corporate could be, I don't know. That's
an interesting way of sort of even the colonizer coming in and kind of taking over a place, and also through assimilation as well, which happened with the Native American Indians, which is, I grew up with this very challenging history that we had to study, or they're trying various ways to talk about it in your own history books, which has always been very challenging.
And the damaging part is when they lost the identity. The other day I was watching, they're still sending me, because I have, the research is ongoing. So I keep receiving videos from museum in Ohio. And so one of the interview with the indigenous person, she's like, I guess like 70 years old, 75 years old. She said, the problem if my kids, they lost the language. The problem if Chinese women their kids lost the language, they can go to China and learn. French, they can go to France and learn. Where we send our kids? It's gone. This is the main issue. This is more important than losing their land or life or, yeah.
It's true. I mean, I think that this idea of identity is the
Yes.
Endangered identity, which is what you're speaking about, and which is a reality, not just to the Native Americans, but also, you're also mentioning, at least in this work, which I'd love to talk about briefly now, but the Palestinians, other sort of peoples who have been colonized and taken over. If we look at this particular piece that is conjoined, there's six canvases conjoined, right? If you could maybe explain a little bit how again it's touching upon the idea of the colonizer and the colonized, not just the Native Americans, and how does this fit all together, all of these people together?
Yeah, through the research, I was trying to find the link between what happened in Palestine and Iraq, and I easily found it. Like during the research, I called it like what happened to the Indian. I called it the classical massacre, which is kill the people, take the land. In Palestine, push the people away. I called it modern massacre. Push the people away and take the land. In Iraq, you don't need to kill or bleach people. It's just create this chaos in Iraq, and people, they will leave. And then you will have generation. We have, I don't know, 6 to 10 million people, they left Iraq. And then their kids and their grandkids now, they're in the West, and they're white. And some of them are, like, now I discovered that physically in my family, like my 2 daughters, I was in Canada, and my 2 daughters, they became white Canadian. They speak English, they behave like white Canadian, and they know nothing about anything. So I decided one day, I remember the moment I was sitting with my wife in the car, and one of my daughters, she asked me a question, which is, I thought, okay, let's leave. So I decided that moment that I'm leaving. So I went to Lebanon. And then from Lebanon to Jordan, from Jordan back to Doha, and now they grow like they're 18, but in Doha. I didn't push anyone, I didn't force them to leave. I just tell them, okay, I'm going back, you wanna come with me or not? Because this is our identity.
You mean coming back to the region?
I'm not against white people, by the way. It's not this. It's just trying to, yeah.
But you live now between Doha and Beirut.
Doha and Beirut and Canada. My son in Canada, so sometimes I go and.
And you know, looking at this particular work in front of us, and then we'll speak about the other ones. But there's a particular way that you've created these canvases, and there's a lot of movement and lines. It feels like it's in motion. Especially if I look at certain ones, I almost have to squint my eyes because it's hard to see. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've created this work, these works particularly? Because I know there's a process that you've done in terms of washing and the ink, and then the result. What does that exactly represent in terms of this idea of colonization and sort of the identity massacre, both physical and ideological?
You see, like generally speaking, I use video sometimes, sculpture. In this particular show, I thought I'm showing documents. So basically, I collect documents, and then from the documents, I enlarged the documents and start putting them together and making this kind of abstract work in the end. I have to go back a little bit. I was working with a curator in Canada, American curator in Canada, for this show, for this work. And they, in the last minute, they decided, after a month of working together, they decided to leave. They told me, we cannot do it. At that moment, I thought, okay, I'm going to keep the documents. I'm going to keep working on this project. And I'll do the project in a way that you see the hidden images, because I thought I don't have to be direct. Like video, it will be directly. I have videos, but I thought I keep it abstract. I let the people to research.
When you say documents, just if you could explain to us, those documents are documents about the Native American Indians, and
yeah, I have some documents about the massacre, how it happened,
and they're more documentary. But I think
some writing also, and some letters mainly. Yeah.
So in some ways, that's what an artwork does. It actually takes a step away from maybe something that's so candid, and so that we have a slight separation rather than seeing it right before our eyes. So you have this kind of a shield almost, but yet it's abstract, and so it's still.
It is abstract, yeah.
And so you told me yesterday that I was actually quite surprised that no American institutions, that originally they were all very excited to show this work, but then they decided that they weren't going to show it.
The curator refused to start the following up the project. So we didn't continue. But now I have the connection to do it in Montreal.
Yeah, and you were telling me the other day, Mahmoud, that there's a particular washing with the water as well to create some of these paintings.
Yeah, it's this one and these two. It's I thought that I wanted to go like physically with the idea of that one. It's washing is like, when you have a crime, you want to wash the blood, and so I was washing everything I'm doing. Then I cover it with something nice, something beautiful, like the landscape there and the landscape here and the landscape here. But there is something behind it. There is another layer.
What is the other layer
behind?
Documents.
This one is based on a letter written from the Inuit to the Cherokee before they leave. So it's all about the massacre, how it happened, and how many kids they died during the war. And
as you've just mentioned, there's this coupling here between really with violence, obviously through abstraction, and I'd also say sort of disorientation. When you look at, my eyes look at that work, for example, with all the points, I have to squint, I feel a bit disoriented. And then I can take a break by looking at, something that's more natural, or the beauty, as you're saying. So there's a sort of balance, would you say, Mahmoud, between violence and beauty in these works, which I think is quite fascinating on an intellectual level, that you've decided to do that. Some people might have just decided to display
I don't
violence.
know if I decided to do that, but in the end, it is abstract work. Like, it is a painting sitting on a wall. It's abstract, could be beautiful, it could be not. But it's not my decision. Like, I believe in the layer of research behind any artwork we're doing. Like, I believe it's the depth of the idea. It's more important than the surface you see here. The research and behind the work, it's more important than the work itself. Yeah. So, but in the end, the result, it's abstract work.
Definitely. And your work, again, going back to Iraq, we were talking about this. There's always a touch upon your homeland. I mean, I don't know, you can explain yourself if there's, but in every work that I've seen, there's a slight reference in some way to Iraq, even though you left in 1991 and you've barely been back since. There's this always pulling kind of desire to show something of home. How does your work, your current works, current and past work, still kind of retain a bit of Iraq, or does it sometimes at all?
Example like Compact Home?
Yeah, exactly, like Compact Home.
Compact Home, you see, when I left Iraq in '91, I had this dream of going back. So the first period in my life, I couldn't get residency. I was in Jordan, but I couldn't. They didn't give me residency. I had to leave every 3 months, 6 or 3 months. So then when I went to Canada just at the beginning, so I had this, from Amman I left to Tunisia, to Egypt, and they didn't let me in. So I was back to Amman. Amman was okay, was a great home, everything, but I didn't get the residency visa there. So with all this procedure of going on to all these countries, and then to Canada, I had this dream of going back to. So and I lost all my luggage in Tunisia while I'm traveling. So then I start collecting only small, like when I read a book, I just keep the title as a memory of this book. When I listen to a CD, I throw when I buy a CD, I throw one away. When I buy a shirt, I keep one shirt. Like when I buy one, I have to throw away one to keep one luggage with me. So that was the Compact Home. In 2003, with the invasion of Iraq, I lost that feeling of going back home. I felt like Iraq is gone. That's why I did Compact Home. So I have these boxes of Compact Home which it has like small memory things of all my trip, all my travel. And yeah, I guess that was direct. And then I did Disposable Home project. But this is related only to, like directly to my homeland, Iraq. But basically, other things is just, of course, with me. I'm still working with the thought of Iraq all the time. Like even this project, if you think about it, I'm trying to find the link all the time. Like now I found link between the carpet, Aboriginal carpet, indigenous carpet, with the carpet in Iraq. I found some lines, some things, so I'm trying to find this link.
So there's always kind of, the overarching idea of understanding violence, I think, in general, and what happens when a people becomes destruct. And I think even greater than that, this idea of identity, cultural heritage, identity. We're just talking about Arabic language as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to joke now. I take Arabic, I'm trying to get my Arabic better. Yeah. It's been my biggest regret living in Dubai. But we are sitting here in Dubai speaking English, Yeah. And yet this is your part of the world. So there's idea of also, I think, a lot of, Mahmoud, but other artists I've also spoken with not just from Iraq, there's an idea of preserving, right? Something something that's not it's still there, but of course it's endangered.
You know, the identity of Baghdad, it changed after the 2003. That's why you asked me if I go to Baghdad. I said, no, I'm not going. Even the identity of my city, it changed. It's different now.
I was able to go last year, and I'm hoping to go back soon. I loved it.
Yeah, but you don't know the...
But I don't know the other Baghdad. I
yeah.
have no idea what Baghdad was like before. I just see remnants of past grandeur and glory, and you know, it's an ancient city. I love ancient cities. I was raised in Rome, so. But yes, there's obviously destruction that has happened. Maybe we could go through also these works right here, and that reference these specifically. Is there a subject or a link to the Native Americans within these works that it is particularly or distinct from what we find in these canvases?
This one is based on document. That's the very important document. This is the one I got from Ohio Museum. And these two are based on real document. And the rest, this is based on Al-Taghrib al-Falastiniya. If you squeeze your eyes and you go back like 100 meters, you might see it on this one here. So this is based on photograph of when the Palestinian left.
And these as well, here behind us, these two ones.
This one, if you take a photo and turn it, you will see Yeah,
we tried to do that yesterday, but you have to make sure that the light is in the right position.
Yeah. It's an abstract in the end, yeah.
Your works are always extremely politically charged. I mean, you're very activist in many ways, and there's an idea of, I think, when I've worked with or when I've written about artists that involve politics or are constantly kind of probing or searching for answers, I think, through their work, or trying to solve some of these issues, which are, you know, violence and loss of identity, destruction, homeland. There is an inherent desire to hopefully change, or to bring about a change in perception. I mean, I also hope that too in some ways. I have this ideal that maybe an artwork can change a perception, it can bring people closer. I like to be optimistic. What are your thoughts? What do you think about an artwork's power? What is, since you do work about this.
You see, I don't know if art, and I mean all form of arts like film, I don't know if they can change the perception of something. Like, I know two things. Like, I know that this is the only tool I have. And I know this is a document will stay. So I don't really think about changing things tomorrow. But I believe from the history that art, it will leave the effect in the future. It's just like eating healthy. You'll see the result in 50 years.
50
Instead
years.
of, 50 years.
That's a long time away.
Yeah, something like that. But I don't know if it will affect anything like directly, but it will work. This is this is the tools we have. This is the weapon we,
It brings about a feeling, you know, when I look at a work of art, sometimes I have a feeling immediately. I get an emotional reaction.
Yeah, but
sometimes
would you change something with this emotional reaction?
It takes me outside of the moment. I think that's very important. Even if it's briefly. Sometimes I might be having a horrible day, or I might be having a great day, and I see a work of art, and it gives me a different taste about something, and I'll think about it in a different way, a different light.
Yeah. Yeah, but going back to the technique, now we're talking about the research and thinking and reading. Basically, this is one part of the research, then you go to the actual painting. What you feel, what you see is that history of the paint or experience the artists have to do a beautiful, nice work and texture and. Like in the end, like all the research I did, it's not when I said this is a document, it's not a document. You're not going to find the document. You will find this contemporary art service, artwork. It's not the document. I'm telling you the document because I was thinking about the document, working with the document, but not when I paint, I go somewhere else, like in a different place. So that's what you feel. That's what when you come and you see the painting, you have this feeling. This is this part.
It's an escape.
But my goal is for people to go and read, like to see this, to love it, and then they go and research what happened to these people, why it happened this way.
And to also strike these parallels between not just the Native Americans, cultures that have all been colonized and taken over as well. Just to touch a bit, because this research part, the documentation is also fascinating. How did you do this, and over how much period of, how long was the period of time in terms of finding these documents? I imagine you had to do a lot of archival research to find.
It's 2017 and 2018. I get all I need, but then I start the procedure of working, basically. I don't know if I reached like 5% of the real research, which is huge. Yeah.
But it's the idea of at least encapsulating something within these works.
Yeah.
The power of it.
And it's an ongoing project. Like I'm still thinking of next step.
So what we see in front of us will be continued.
Yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. I love the movement and the rhythm. I think that's whatever you escaped into when you're creating the works, we definitely feel.
Yeah.
There's a pulsation, and at least when I look at them. But again, I think these cultures or these places that are in danger. I think in some ways we all are, right? Because identity is continually changing. Even in Dubai, where we're all mixed, we're constantly interchanging, and that's movement in itself.